What's good, my pack? How's everybody doing out there? So the review you were about to see, guys, this was recorded a couple of months ago. So the way you'll hear me talk is very much it's the review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I told you guys on a post that I would upload it. It's old, it's older, but you hear me talk like it's still 2022 to some degree. I try not to spoil a lot of the movie, even though the movie had been out for a couple of month or so. Because I say in the movie, I say in the review, I saw it late December, it late November to December. So you hear me say that. But I did see it, and so if you start hearing me like he's just putting this up. I told you guys I was being lazy. There are two movies. I saw two last movies of 2022, and I was just being lazy. So I finished editing one of the movie reviews, and that's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm gonna work on reviewing, editing Violent Night, the David Harbour movie. But outside of that, enjoy the review no matter what. And yeah, that's it, guys. But just enjoy it. I know it's been up. The movie's been out, and it's already been announced that Wakanda Forever will be debuting on Disney Plus in February. Perfect time. But yeah, just know that he finally put it up. Uh, but I was just being lazy and finally getting around to editing some of my past works. Y'all take care. How's everybody doing today? M.V.K here, back again. And today on this vid, guys, this is something that you guys have been wanting to see me talk about. Uh, and I know people have been asking me, you know, when is it coming, Chris? When is the review coming? I want to hear what you thought about this. Well, you can't really see it, but it's a Black Panther shirt. Um, but yeah, I wanted to definitely wanted to talk about it. I saw the movie a couple of months ago after it came out. I wasn't able to see it when it first came out, and I saw it around maybe a couple of months. I'm trying to remember when. I saw it like in December or so. Yeah, I think it was December. I saw it in December. December. It was one of those days. I think it was December or late November. But everybody was asking me to, what did I think about it? Did I like it? And I did love this movie. I love this movie a lot. It was a very touching and very touching send off and touching thank you to Mr. Boseman, and I'm getting emotional already talking about this movie. But guys, it was I cried in this movie because of the situation at hand that led us to this movie, and also how I felt about this movie in general, just between the characters themselves. I'm even though the movie has been out and for a while, I'm still not going to spoil a lot of stuff, but there's some things that I'm going to have to spoil. For one thing, T'Challa died in the MCU in general. I was shocked of how he died, that he conducted some kind of illness, which in proper use that shouldn't have happened, but of course you have to give some kind of use. But I like the story of Shuri, feeling responsible. She had the power to if she had the proper resources to help her brother, she would have. That was one thing I took away from this movie too, is finding a balance between loss and responsibility, through this movie. That was one thing I did find very, very appealing to me, because that's how I would feel if I was this genius and my brother was sick and I had this, and I thought, okay, I could help, even try to maybe synthesize a version of what we once had, but my brother succumbs to his illness. Yeah, that hurt. So I really applaud them for that, for doing that. That broke me down too. And I remember there was a woman next to me. I was like, "You all right?" I was like, "Yeah." The movie was getting to me. The movie literally got to me a lot, and that was something I will never take away. If this movie was meant to make you emotionally attached to these characters, then it did its job, because it did. Angela Bassett was great, as always, as Rama, and I'll get into that in later things in that. But the whole concept is also, what we feared would have happened. Like, Wakanda's still not spreading its resources, or things that are happening, and they're blaming Wakanda for it. And that was something I had a fear that was going to happen. I did take some notes, guys, on my pad that I wanted to get to as well, on there. So, one of the things that I brought up is the introduction of Namor, that I wanted to touch on. Namor's introduction, and the Navy SEALs, CIA, having a vibranium detector. That was interesting, and I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. But just to see how they brought Namor in and how fierce he was perfectly done the way he was done. And even when he confronted Ramona and Shuri, it was still a case of, like, you could see Namor in the body language. That was the one thing about him that I really appreciated, his body language. The actor, my notes. Mr. Techu Urata, I loved how he portrayed himself as Namor, and I love how he no matter what, he definitely threatened Wakanda. So I really appreciated that. Like, just showing, like, I do not fear you. I do not fear your country, and we will retaliate for you. I'm protecting my people. And we get to see that he's older than he looks. And I thought that was spot on. I was like, oh yes, like, they're acknowledging that he's spot on. Even the acknowledgement of well, I'm still going to call them the Atlanteans, even though they haven't, there is a name for them, but even the way they explained how they got their superhuman, the ability to breathe underwater and things like that, I was like, that's perfect. That's perfectly done. In another part of my notes, introduction of Riri Williams. We are introduced to Riri Williams through Everett Ross. I was very interested in knowing, that was very interesting in knowing that Riri is the one that created the vibranium detector. I was like, whoa, okay. They're trying something different with her. Instead of her just being, yes, they kept her, she was from MIT, but her being not just looking at Tony Stark's as a challenge to, they gave her something more, like, she's already had that brilliance in her. She's already had the brilliance, but here's what she did in the MCU compared to like her comic counterpart. So I enjoyed that too. I was like, okay. And just her interaction with Okoye and Shuri was, what the hell are you with that bald head? Like, just You think that's cool? I'm like, yo, the way she is talking is legit what I can hear some of my friends talk like if they saw Okoye with her bald head. Like, it was just, that was just cracking me up. I had to laugh at that part. I'm like, okay, you know, but yeah, I did I got where they were going for that. And seeing what happens to Okoye in the in between the Dora Milaje and her was, I was like, wow, I can't believe they did that. I'm not gonna spoil what that is, but most of you probably already know what that is. When to, when Namor comes and you see the wings, the geek in me is just like, just like, oh my god, like it's right there, like, oh, like you're happy, you're happy about it, you're jonesing to see that. You're like, like that's how you're like, you're flipping out. But yeah, I was happy about it, like to see him, with his wings and him, everything. There is a death in the movie. I'm not. I put it in my notes. Death in the movie, that hurt. Death in the movie hurts. Yes, that hurt.
Yeah.
I had planned for a death in this movie, but I wasn't planning for that, and that hurt. That hurt. But to see what she did and why, it is a female, I will say that, and to see the female, why this happened, yeah, it was very interesting. I was like, oh, and then seeing what happens because of the outcome, it becomes a full circle. The one thing I also looked at this movie, from my notes, full circle of revenge and anger. Full circle of revenge and anger. There's once the death happens, Shuri is mortified and angry and pissed off, and to the point where she synthesizes a synthetic version of the heart-shaped herb, takes it. I will say this, she does take it, and when she enters the astral planes of where all the, I was not surprised on who we saw, and that was a good cameo. I was like, okay, makes sense on who we see there. And even her Black Panther suit was great, and seeing them go to war. What I really will say this, I loved how they portrayed M'Baku in this. M'Baku was portrayed so well, and Wilson Duke did such a great job as M'Baku in this, as him being more of the aggressor from the previous movie, especially that first movie, and now you're seeing him more of, he wants to be the peacemaker and things like that. That the whole shape of the character, of his character, but still showing like, I will protect my kingdom, my people, and still I thought that was beautiful, because even in the movie he is trying to persuade Shuri to think of peace and things like that. To see the Dora Milaje and them go to war was great, just seeing that. And then what I even loved even more was seeing the Midnight Angels. I was like, oh, because the Midnight Angels is a subgroup of the Dora Milaje that don't really use vibranium weapons. In the comics, they were first debuted in Doom Wars, and then later on, but it was beautiful. I was like, oh. And to see Okoye, put on one of the, I was like, oh, that was so cool. There was not that much for Everett Ross, outside of that, him helping, giving vital information, as I put in my notes, giving vital information to Shuri and Shuri and Okoye. But later on, we saw Valentina in here, and we find out that in this world, Valentina and him they were former ex-wife. That's Ross's ex-wife, and he gets arrested for that. So I was like, okay, there's the connection. I can see some connection where they may go with that. But I was fine with that. That was a cool trot. But to see the fight between Shuri and Namor was beautifully done, because I even loved how they were able to somewhat minimize Namor's great power. What I love, because they went old school. You could tell Coogler did his home. He knows his homework on Namor. The writers knew, because back in the day they used to write that if you what happens? You dry and Atlantean's skin out, yeah, they start to lose their strength, things like that. And I love how Shuri was able to do that. I got my notes right here. Says the famous war cry. He does say Imperious Rex, and I fucking nearly pissed on myself when that happened. That was beautifully done too. I love. Yeah, Shuri does get seriously wounded in this at one point, but I love how she's able to overcome that. And I even love how the fight ends. Something that you would never think Namor to do, but I actually liked it. I love how that ends. And I put in my notes, realizing the similarities between each pack, Atlanteans and Wakandans, or as you all know, the Talokans. I put that, and Shuri imploring him to yield. I do like that. It does make me wonder what will happen next for them and the Talokans, and even Namora really feeling like Namor let their people down by she was really upset when he surrendered and things like that. I was a little shocked at that. Like, why would you, but yeah, it did happen. I like the ending even more, like seeing the future of Wakanda, seeing that, as I put in my notes here, seeing Shuri plants the future for the mantle of Black Panther. I like that, because in the movie we see her planting heart-shaped herbs for like the mantle of Black Panther. That was something I thought was. I also liked seeing. I even put in my notes. Riri leaves her first suit behind. She doesn't take it. And also Okoye rescuing Ross from being imprisoned. So I thought that was cool too. But the real interesting thing is what it holds for the future. Now, there is a mid-credit that I think everybody, I don't know how everybody, I looked at it as, okay, I can maybe believe this, I could buy this, so I will spoil the mid-credit as much as I can, but the mid-credit is that Shuri and Nakia go back to Haiti, because that's where Nakia has been since the blip. She was living in Haiti, and there we see a child, we see Shuri's nephew. His nephew, her nephew, that basically is showcased that Nakia and T'Challa had a child, and they kept him out of the limelight so he could just live a normal life. And I thought that was sweet. I was like, oh, okay. And he said his name was Tucson, but they said they talked in Wakandan, and Shuri asked him, "What's your name?" And he said T'Challa, and I'm like, okay, okay, I can see where they're going. I know that may not be what everybody wanted, but I looked at that like, okay, we could see, this could be a future if they want to continue with, Black Panther. But to see Shuri take up the mantle was great because it's something that a lot of us comic fans wanted to see. So I appreciate that. The bottom line about this movie, guys, is that it really was a love letter. And gee, I'm getting emotional again. Every time I start about to talk about Chadwick Boseman, I get emotional. It was a love letter to him, and it was a way for us and Coogler to say thank you for everything he's done as the character and what the lives that he touched as that character. I always used to say in my vids, like, patience, he's coming, and we patiently waited, and then it finally happened. And to see him, and then to see that he's gone, we never knew. We didn't know that he was going through this. He kept that out of the limelight, that he was dealing with his cancer, I believe. Yeah. So this was a real love letter to Chadwick Boseman, and I applaud Coogler and Marvel and everybody for not doing the stereotypical recasting or things like that. But now you can do that. You can recast and be like, well, this is T'Challa's son, or so. But I applaud them for that. I applaud them for doing what they did. It wasn't. I didn't look at it. This was such a beautiful movie. Best performance. This is probably, to me, you talk about performance. Queen Angela puts everything in the role, and she delivered so well in this movie. I can't say anything bad about it. And if anybody says something bad about it, you're a goddamn idiot for saying that, because she delivered on this so much, and I can't say anything bad about it. I'm sorry, I can't. But if this was the final movie of Phase 4, and what a way for Phase 4 to end. I look forward to the rest of the phases and see where they go now. But in the meantime, for the world of Wakanda, the sun sets on one and rises again on the other. I really appreciate that. It does make me wonder, will we see Namor again and things like that? But hopefully we will. Hopefully we will see him again. I appreciate what we saw. It really was a really good movie. I'm gonna stop, guys, because like I said, I don't want to be crying on camera. I've done that before, and this movie made me cry. It's probably the second Marvel movie to make me cry, legitimately cry. I cried. The first movie was Spider-Man No Way Home. That was the first time I cried, actually. Really? No. This is the third, because I cried at Endgame when all the heroes were coming back. I cried on that. I knew they were coming back, but it's still emotional to see them come back. Spider-Man No Way Home, seeing him lose Aunt May, and that hurt. Stuff like that. I don't care how many times I've read these things or see, it's gonna hurt. And this made me cry. So thank you, Mr. Boseman, for everything you've done. Thank you, Ryan Coogler. hope you guys enjoyed this long-awaited review, but I enjoyed it very much. Indeed, there is one more movie for 2022 I want to see, and it's a kind of a holiday movie. It stars David Harbour. It looks really fun. But yes, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time. Deuce.